In the immense auditorium of the Galactic Council, where light bent around the gravity of ancient words and the echoes of timeless decrees, a human stood. Ambassador Lin Jathar of Earth didn't tower physically. Her presence was more subtle, a ripple across the calm surface of the assembly, yet undeniable. The chamber, a vast amphitheatre with floating podiums and an open view to the stars, was filled with representatives of 1,000 worlds, their forms ranging from the gaseous swirls of the Zephyrians to the crystalline structures of the Tecnali. Ambassador Jathar began to speak, her voice modulated to resonate across the many spectrums of hearing present. She told the Council of Earth's blue skies and deep oceans, of art and poetry. Then her tone shifted, and she spoke of war, of conflicts that had burned continents and ideologies that had divided her world. She told them of humanity's resilience, their ability to rise from ashes, to turn scars into symbols of strength, to forge peace out of discord. The displays that encircled the chamber came alive with scenes from Earth's history, great marches of solidarity, the crumbling of walls that had once divided, the silent reverence of memorials for the fallen. These were followed by images of revolutions, of technological leaps fueled by necessity, of a species that, when cornered, responded with an ingenuity and ferocity that had stunned even themselves. As the images played, a quiet discomfort settled over the council. This young species had known pain, had inflicted it, had learned and evolved from it. And now, here they were, not to bow before the old powers of the galaxy, but to warn them. The ambassador's final words hung in the chamber, a silent ultimatum echoed by the displays now showing Earth's first hesitant steps into the stars. Fear us not for our weapons or warships. Fear us for our determination to persist, for our capacity to endure and prevail. The Kellian delegates, their carapaces catching the light as they shifted, watched with growing amusement. To them, Earth's turbulent history showed not strength, but vulnerability. They saw a divided species, ripe for subjugation, not peers to be heeded. Commander Zrax whispered to his adjutant, his mandibles clicking with derision. He'd already made his decision, and the human's plea, or was it a threat, did nothing but fortify his intent. The meeting adjourned, the myriad species dissolving into murmurs and leaving the chamber. The lights dimmed, leaving Ambassador Jathar standing alone, gazing out at the starscape where Earth hung silently, a blue jewel veiled by distance. Her message had been delivered. Now it was up to the Kellians, and indeed the galaxy, to heed or ignore the veiled warning of a species that had made survival an art form. Commander Zrax strode through the halls of the Kellian Command Center, his footsteps echoing with purpose. The grandeur of Krell, with its towering spires and gleaming surfaces, mirrored the confidence of its inhabitants. As a member of the Kellian High Command, Zrax's reputation was built on decisive victories and an unshakable belief in the superiority of his species. The human ambassador's words had been nothing more than a passing entertainment to the gathered military minds. In the strategic planning room, a holographic model of the solar system hovered in mid-air, planets and moons orbiting lazily. Zrax's hand hovered over Earth, a flicker of contempt in his eyes. "We will not heed the Council's caution," he declared. His officers, arrayed in a semicircle, nodded their agreement, their bodies rigid with disciplined anticipation. The thought of humans posing any serious threat seemed ludicrous. Their divided nations and primitive technology were no match for Kellian might. But the humans were not idle. Satellite networks picked up the encrypted bustle of communication signals. Unbeknownst to Zrax, his underestimation was noted, and Earth's defenses began to mobilize. While the Kellians saw an opportunity for a swift and decisive conquest, the humans saw a need for strategic defense, perhaps even a chance for a surprise offensive. The Kellian fleet, armed to the teeth with pulse cannons and shield disruptors, assembled with quiet efficiency. Ships that had once quelled rebellions and annexed whole systems now turned their sights on a new prize. The order was given. The fleet warped into the darkness between stars, bound for a world that had dared to speak of resistance. The warp trails faded, leaving only the cold light of distant suns to witness their departure. On Earth, the news of the approaching Kellian armada spread through clandestine channels. In secret bases and hidden shipyards, the air thrummed with a sense of urgency. Ships that had been designed for exploration were retrofitted for war, and soldiers trained for a conflict that spanned not countries, but planets. Mankind would not be caught unprepared. They had a plan, a desperate gambit that could turn the tide in their favor. The first of the Kellian ships dropped out of warp at the edge of the solar system. They expected no resistance, no warning shots, just a silent system awaiting its conquerors. Instead, as they approached the red sands of Mars, alarms blared. Human ships, smaller and more agile than their Kellian counterparts, burst from behind moons and from the shadow of the asteroid belt. It was an ambush. The Battle of Europa was about to begin. The Kellian fleet, having emerged into the Sol system with the sun's coronal light glinting off their hulls, anticipated a swift subjugation. As the vanguard approached Mars, they were met not with the white flag of surrender, but with a volley of fire from the Earth Space Defense Fleet, a ragtag armada hastily assembled from commercial liners, mining ships, and retrofitted fighters. Europa, the icy Jovian moon, became the unlikely stage for humanity's audacious stand. Hidden within the moon's shadow, human pilots awaited the signal. It came as a burst of static, the prearranged cue garbled yet unmistakable. With a surge of engines, the human ships hurtled towards their unsuspecting prey, their movements choreographed chaos, a deadly dance amidst the stars. The Kellians, so sure of their unassailable might, found themselves reeling. Their tactical screens, designed for the grand battles against well-known foes, floundered amidst the swarm of human ingenuity. Each human ship was a maverick, unpredictable. They struck with kinetic rods and nuclear-tipped torpedoes, exploiting gaps in the Kellian formation. Admiral Kara Jensen, aboard the makeshift flagship Athena, a converted colony vessel now bristling with jury-rigged weaponry, called out targets with cold precision. Each order was a sentence, sentencing Kellian ships to oblivion. Her crew, a blend of veteran spacefarers and raw recruits, followed her commands with unwavering resolve. The Kellians, with their superior numbers and firepower, responded with a fury that had quelled 1,000 uprisings. Plasma beams lanced through the void, seeking the nimble human ships. But for every human vessel they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place, emerging from the cover of Europa's craggy surface, or the sensor blind spots created by Jupiter's massive electromagnetic fields. Commander Zrax, from his command ship, watched the unfolding battle with growing consternation. This was not the undisciplined rabble he had been assured humanity consisted of. These were warriors, each ship and pilot an embodiment of their world's tumultuous history, each maneuver a testament to their tenacity. In the end, the Kellians withdrew, their advance blunted, leaving the space around Europa littered with debris and echoes of the unexpected resistance. The Kellian High Command would hear of this, Zrax knew. They would send reinforcements. But the first blood had been drawn, and it was not human. The message was clear. Earth would not capitulate. This small blue planet and its people would fight, and they had the will and the means to transform their system into a fortress. For the first time, doubt crept into the minds of the Kellian commanders. Perhaps the Galactic Council's warnings were not just overcautious mutterings. Perhaps there was something to the humans, a quality not quantified in the briefs and reports. As the Kellians regrouped, the humans too took stock. Europa had been a victory, but all knew it was merely the first clash in what would become a war for their very survival. In the aftermath of the skirmish near Mars, Earth's governments, previously divided by nationalistic fervor and ideological divides, faced a new kind of adversary, one that united them under a single cause. From the bustling metropolises to the most remote rural outposts, the shock of the Kellian incursion was supplanted by a swelling tide of resolve. This was not a time for petty squabbles. An existential threat loomed, and humanity would meet it together. Underground bunkers and fortified strongholds, relics from bygone wars, thrummed back to life. Assembly lines that had once churned out commercial goods were rapidly retooled to produce drones, missiles, and laser arrays. Every factory, every lab, every mind was singularly devoted to the defense of the human race. Old rivalries were cast aside as former enemies shared blueprints and codes, working tirelessly to innovate and arm. In space, the remnants of Earth's commercial and scientific fleets were reborn as instruments of war. Sleeper ships, designed for the long journey to distant stars, were now bristling with armaments. Orbital platforms, once peaceful way stations for travelers and traders, became staging grounds for pilots and soldiers. The military academies on the Moon ramped up their training programs, churning out cadets at a breakneck pace. Each graduate knew that their commission was not just a call to duty, but a summons to the front lines of a new frontier in human history. Volunteers poured in from every corner of the globe, a myriad of languages and creeds united under a common banner. They brought with them a diversity of thought and experience, turning every strategy session into a crucible of ideas, each more daring than the last. Seasoned generals found themselves listening to guerrilla fighters, space pirates, and cyber warriors, each with their own unique insights into asymmetric warfare. On the geopolitical stage, the United Nations was transformed. No longer merely a forum for discussion, it became the central command for Earth's collective military efforts. Ambassadors became liaisons to their respective nations' forces, and the Security Council's round table served as the war room from which global strategies were deployed. As the blueprints for war machines rolled off the printers and the factories echoed with the clangor of production, humanity also turned its eyes to the stars. Every telescope was trained on the heavens, not in search of knowledge or discovery, but vigilance. Across the globe, the night sky was no longer a tapestry of cosmic wonder, but a battlefield awaiting the return of the Kellian menace. In the solitude of her office, high above the Earth in the geostationary command station now known as the Citadel, Admiral Jensen watched the preparations unfold. She had won the first battle, but the war was only just beginning. She knew the Kellians would come back with fury in their hearts, and when they did, humanity would be ready to face them, united as one people, one planet, with a singular will to survive and prevail. In the aftermath of the Battle of Europa, the humans' strategic advantage lay not just in their technological adaptations, but also in the shadows, their espionage network. The intel that flowed like unseen rivers into the Earth's command was a testament to humanity's cunning adaptation to the vastness of interstellar conflict. The Earth's clandestine operatives, a blend of cyber hackers, former smugglers, and seasoned spies, infiltrated the data streams and communication lines of the Kellian forces. Their craft was not the brazen warfare of soldiers, but the delicate art of deception, misinformation, and sabotage. Each successful data heist or hacked transmission sowed further chaos into the Kellian ranks. In a secure room deep within the Citadel, the head of Earth's intelligence, Director Syra Khan, oversaw operations with a masterful touch. She coordinated with cells planted across key Kellian outposts, operatives who spoke the Kellian language and navigated their society with a natural ease that belied their true allegiance. With each report that came in, she wove a tapestry of subterfuge, striking at the Kellian war machine one subtle cut at a time. Among the humans' unexpected allies were the Yelani, ethereal beings whose disdain for the Kellians was matched only by their ability to move unseen and unheard. Their reasons for aiding Earth were their own, but their assistance was invaluable. They slipped through the Kellians' defenses, planting seeds of doubt among the ranks and relaying critical intelligence back to their human counterparts. The sabotage was precise and calculated. Supply routes were mysteriously rerouted to dead zones, ammunition depots suffered unexplained detonations, and Kellian patrol ships found their navigation systems leading them astray. With each incident, the morale within the Kellian fleet eroded, their once unshakable confidence beginning to waver. Amidst this clandestine war, Earth's most audacious operation was unfolding. Codenamed Project Trojan, it was the culmination of human ingenuity and espionage. A captured Kellian frigate, meticulously restored and modified, was crewed by Earth's elite operatives and set on a course back to the enemy. Its mission was to blend seamlessly into the Kellian armada, to gather intelligence, and when the moment was ripe, to strike from within. As the Kellians planned their next move, oblivious to the depth of Earth's reach, Director Khan and her shadow warriors continued their dance of deception. They were the unsung heroes of the conflict, the silent sentinels who fought not with guns or ships, but with information and subterfuge. In the war for survival, they were Earth's hidden blade, ready to strike at the heart of the Kellian threat. The celestial ballet of Saturn's rings was disrupted by the ominous silhouettes of Kellian destroyers as they positioned themselves in a strategic blockade. The ringed planet, with its many moons, was a key supply route for Earth's outer colonies and a crucial source of helium-3 for fusion reactors. Cutting off Saturn meant suffocating Earth's capacity to wage a prolonged war, or so the Kellians believed. Their blockade was an impressive display of military prowess, a layered defense with capital ships and fighter patrols creating a net around the gas giant. The Kellians broadcasted their demands, a cessation of hostilities from Earth and unconditional surrender back to the Citadel. But surrender was a word long purged from humanity's lexicon. Earth responded not with compliance, but with a strategy of endurance and defiance. Supply ships, now taking on the likeness of ghost vessels with stealth technology, ran the blockade. They navigated the gauntlet of Kellian sensors, their hulls cold and silent, slipping through undetected like phantoms against the backdrop of Saturn's storms. These daring runs were high-stakes gambles, but they kept the lifeline to Earth's outer defenses intact. Beneath the heavy blanket of Saturn's clouds, on the moon Titan, a resistance was brewing. The colonists, scientists and soldiers who called the moon home refused to be caged by the Kellian threat. They turned their research stations into factories and their outposts into fortresses. From the methane lakes to the icy plains, Titan became a bastion of human resolve. As the blockade continued, skirmishes erupted. Kellian interceptors clashed with human fighters in engagements that left the ring's particles drifting like cosmic confetti. Each encounter, each narrow escape by human pilots, was a testament to their growing adeptness in space combat. In one such engagement, a human pilot, Kali Nova Vespa, became a symbol of resistance. Her ship, battered and bruised from numerous runs, glided through the Kellian patrols with an artful grace, delivering crucial supplies to Titan. Her name and her ships, the Shooting Star, became emblems of hope, painted on murals and sung in songs, a reminder that even amidst the siege, humanity's spirit burned fiercely. Back at the Citadel, Admiral Jensen received reports of the blockade's impact and the stories of defiance. She knew each successful supply run was a minor victory, a small act of rebellion against the Kellian oppressors. As the siege over Saturn drew on, it became clear that while the Kellians could isolate planets and moons, they could not contain the indomitable will of humanity. Each day the blockade failed to break the human spirit, it served only to strengthen it. As the siege over Saturn stretched into weeks, the human forces began their counter-offensive in a bold maneuver to reclaim control of the outer rim. The strategy was multifaceted, designed not only to break the blockade, but also to send a clear message. Humanity was not just defending, it was retaliating. The first phase involved a series of lightning strikes at the Kellian supply lines. These were not the grand fleets of the core systems, but smaller, agile task forces that could hit hard and vanish before any significant Kellian response could be mobilized. Captain Leo Martins, a tactical genius with a reputation for daring operations, led these raids. His flagship, the Spearhead, became a ghost in the starry night, feared by Kellian supply officers more than any other vessel. Meanwhile, a special ops team, known as the Phantom Unit, launched a ground assault on Phoebe, a small moon of Saturn that the Kellians had converted into a forward operating base. The team, equipped with the latest in stealth and combat technology, infiltrated the moon under the cover of a meteor shower, a natural event turned tactical advantage. Their mission was to sabotage the Kellian communication arrays and disrupt the chain of command. The assault on Phoebe was as silent as it was deadly. Explosives, placed with surgical precision, turned the moon's surface into a maze of fire and debris, rendering the Kellian outpost inoperative. As the Kellian forces scrambled to send aid, they found themselves under attack from all sides. Back in the theater of Saturn, as the Kellians diverted their forces to deal with the crises erupting across their supply lines, the main human fleet launched a full-scale assault against the blockade. Admiral Jensen, aboard the newly christened Resolute, led the charge. The battle that ensued was a testament to human ingenuity and bravery. Massive cruisers, retrofitted with experimental weapons systems, punched through the Kellian lines, while swarms of fighters weaved a complex web of attacks that disoriented the enemy. The Kellian commanders, accustomed to predictable patterns of warfare, found themselves outmatched by the humans' unpredictable tactics. Communication breakdowns and misrouted orders caused by the sabotage on Phoebe only compounded their disarray. As the blockade began to crumble, news of the victory spread like wildfire across human networks. Live feeds of the battle, broadcasted by drones, showed the galaxy that the humans were not merely survivors, but formidable warriors in their own right. The fall of the Outer Rim blockade marked a significant shift in the war's momentum. Freed from the siege, the supply routes to Saturn and beyond were restored, bolstering the human colonies and fueling the war effort. Humanity had not only defended its territory, but had taken the fight to the enemy, proving that even in the face of overwhelming odds, human resolve and resourcefulness could turn the tide of war. With the blockade of Saturn broken and human ships navigating freely through the Outer Rim, the dynamics of the conflict underwent a significant transformation. The morale among Earth's forces soared as the news of their victories spread, not just throughout human-controlled space, but also reaching other civilizations under Kellian dominance. These oppressed species, inspired by humanity's bold resistance, began to question their own roles in the Kellian war machine. On distant planets and in hidden enclaves, whispers of rebellion turned into plans of action. The Silix, a race known for their passive resistance and subtle intellect, covertly reached out to human commanders, offering intelligence and logistical support. Meanwhile, the Varn, whose warriors had once been fierce but subdued by Kellian technology, started uprisings on their occupied worlds, using guerrilla tactics they had learned from intercepted human broadcasts. Back at the Galactic Council, Earth's diplomatic corps, led by Ambassador Jathar, leveraged the changing tide to garner support. The vivid broadcasts of human valor and resilience, coupled with tales of Kellian defeats, stirred the council members. Long silent voices now clamored for discussion, and alliances thought impossible began to form. Traditional power blocks found their footing in the new reality that Earth's actions were reshaping. In strategic meetings aboard the Resolute, Admiral Jensen reviewed the influx of proposals from potential allies. Each offer was weighed not just on strategic value, but on the potential for long-term partnerships. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival alone, but was becoming a beacon for liberation across the galaxy. At the heart of this galactic shift was a massive joint operation planned to liberate key systems along the Kellian border. Dubbed Operation Dawnlight, the campaign was a complex orchestration of multi-species task forces, each unit spearheaded by human commanders and supported by alien contingents eager to reclaim their sovereignty. The first target was the Atraxian system, a critical junction for Kellian supply lines and a symbol of their oppressive reach. The attack was launched with precision and ferocity. Human destroyers, flanked by Silix electronic warfare ships, cut through the Kellian communications, blinding them before ground troops even set foot on the planets. Varn shock troopers, transported by stealthy human carriers, led the charge on the ground, their prowess in close combat clearing path after path toward key objectives. As the Atraxian system was liberated, the ripple effects were immediate. The Kellians, now fighting on multiple fronts, struggled to maintain their hold over other systems. The stories of freed worlds and united species fueled a new narrative in the galaxy, one where freedom was possible and tyranny could be overcome. This turning point was not just a shift in military might, but a transformation in the galactic perspective. Humanity had not only proven itself a formidable force in direct confrontation, but had also emerged as a leader in a larger movement, advocating for dignity and autonomy across the stars. As Admiral Jensen looked out from her command deck, she knew the war was far from over, but the path ahead was clearer, lit by the dawn of new alliances and the hope of a free galaxy. Following the liberation of the Atraxian system, the momentum of the human-led coalition was unstoppable. From one system to the next, the joint forces swept through Kellian-held territories, each victory bolstering their cause and swelling their ranks with new allies, eager to cast off the yoke of Kellian rule. The campaign, now known as the March Through the Stars, became a symbol of galactic resistance. Admiral Jensen, at the helm of this unprecedented uprising, orchestrated the movements of the coalition with the precision of a grandmaster. Each system freed added not only to their strategic depth, but also to their moral imperative, painting a vivid picture of a galaxy yearning for freedom. On the newly liberated planet of Thalassa, a world of vast oceans and floating cities, the coalition established its forward command center. Thalassa became a staging ground for operations, its shipyards buzzing with activity as vessels were repaired and refitted. The planet's inhabitants, the Thalassians, renowned for their advanced hydro-engineering, contributed their expertise by enhancing the coalition's waterbound vessels and providing innovative life support systems for the fleet. In these times of war, Thalassa also evolved into a cultural melting pot, a place where warriors and diplomats from different worlds shared their stories and dreams. In the bustling markets and along the serene waterways, one could hear a myriad of languages and see a tapestry of customs blending into one another. Here the foundation of a new galactic order was slowly being woven, not just through battles won, but through bonds formed. As the campaign pressed forward, Earth's Strategic Command initiated Operation Stellar Hammer, targeting the Kellian industrial heartlands. If the coalition could cripple the Kellians' ability to produce war materials, they could hasten the end of the conflict. The operation was risky, involving deep strikes into heavily fortified systems, but the potential rewards justified the gamble. Captain Leo Martins, now a seasoned commander, led the assault on the industrial world of Krinax. The planet was a fortress, surrounded by defense platforms and patrolled by Kellian warships. The battle for Krinax was fierce. Human pilots dove through storms of anti-spacecraft fire, while allied Varn warriors engaged Kellian ground forces in brutal combat. Above the planet, the Silix engineers worked feverishly to jam enemy communications, creating a window of chaos under which the coalition forces could operate. Despite heavy losses, the operation was a success. The industrial facilities on Krinax were seized, and in some cases, repurposed to serve the coalition's logistics. The victory at Krinax sent shockwaves through Kellian sectors, demonstrating that not even their strongest bastions were impervious to the determined might of the united forces. As the coalition prepared for the next phase of the campaign, they did so not only with enhanced capabilities, but also with a newfound understanding of what their struggle represented. It was no longer a series of engagements to be won or lost, but a profound movement reshaping the very fabric of galactic society. The march through the stars was not just liberating planets, it was freeing minds, advocating a vision of the galaxy where cooperation and respect for sovereignty were the cornerstones of interstellar relations. The momentum of the march through the stars led the coalition to a critical juncture. The binary star system of Helios, a strategic nexus that controlled several hyperlane intersections crucial to the Kellian Empire. Taking Helios would not only deal a significant blow to the Kellian supply lines, but also serve as a symbolic victory, showcasing the reach and resolve of the coalition forces. Helios was naturally formidable, its twin suns creating complex gravitational fields that had been expertly exploited to fortify the system. Around the two stars orbited a series of heavily armed stations, their synchronized orbits forming a deadly ballet of fire and defense. It was here that the Kellians had assembled their largest remaining fleet, under the command of the formidable General Vrax, a veteran who had crushed rebellions across the galaxy. Admiral Jensen, understanding the stakes, coordinated a multi-pronged approach. The plan was audacious, a simultaneous strike on the system's dual gravitational fulcrums to disrupt the orbital defense patterns, followed by a massive direct assault on the Kellian fleet. The battle commenced with a feint. Small, agile fighter squadrons darted towards the outer defenses, drawing Kellian fire and exposing vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, specialized units of engineers, piloted by the daring Silix, maneuvered stealthily to deploy gravity-distorting devices near key points in the system. These devices briefly altered the local gravitational fields, causing chaos in the Kellian formations and disrupting their defensive synchronization. With the Kellian defenses in disarray, the main coalition fleet surged forward. Ships from a dozen worlds, all bearing the marks of previous battles, moved with a single purpose. The Resolute led the charge, its cannons blazing a path toward the Kellian command station orbiting the primary sun. General Vrax, caught off guard but not defeated, rallied his forces with ruthless efficiency. Kellian destroyers, designed for the intense conditions of binary star combat, pushed back hard against the coalition tide. The space between the two stars became a maelstrom of energy fire, debris, and daring maneuvers. Captain Leo Martins, in command of a squadron of nimble interceptors, carved through the Kellian lines to target the command station's shield generators. Each pass was met with fierce resistance, but the precision of his team's flying turned the tide. Once the shields fell, a barrage from the coalition cruisers breached the station, and Varn's shock troops boarded it, engaging in fierce corridor-to-corridor combat to secure the facility. Throughout the battle, Admiral Jensen maintained a calm oversight, her commands flowing through the chaos to guide her forces. The turning point came when the secondary sun's orbital station, destabilized by the Silix's gravity devices, drifted into a decaying trajectory, colliding with a nearby Kellian dreadnought. The resulting explosion broke the Kellian will to fight. In the aftermath, as the fires of battle died down and the twin suns of Helios cast their light on the debris-strewn battlefield, the victory was clear. The coalition had not only secured Helios, but had demonstrated an unparalleled unity and tactical brilliance. This victory echoed across the stars, heralding a new era for the galaxy, one where the freedom fought for by the coalition might soon extend across countless worlds. Helios, once a bastion of Kellian power, would now serve as a beacon of hope and defiance, a symbol of what could be achieved when disparate peoples united for a common cause. In the wake of their triumph at Helios, the coalition forces set their sights on the Kellian bastion, a colossal fortress moon that served as the linchpin for Kellian military operations in the sector. Known as the Iron Citadel, it was reputed to be impregnable, armored with layers of defense systems, and manned by elite Kellian troops. The fortress was not just a military target, it was a symbol of Kellian invincibility, and its fall would signify a critical blow to their empire. Admiral Jensen, understanding the importance of this fortress, devised a plan that combined brute force with the subtlety of espionage. The plan hinged on two phases: a deceptive feint that would draw the bulk of the bastion's defenses to one sector, followed by a concentrated strike at a less guarded but critical vulnerability, the fortress's power core. As the coalition armada positioned itself, hidden among the debris and smaller moons that littered the region, a diversionary force made a blatant approach towards the bastion. This group, led by Captain Leo Martins aboard the Spearhead, engaged the outer defenses, sparking a fierce battle that served as the bait in Jensen's elaborate trap. Meanwhile, a stealth team, comprised of the best operatives from the Phantom unit and supported by Silix technology experts, infiltrated the fortress. Their approach was silent, a ghostly whisper against the backdrop of cosmic noise. The team, dressed in suits that mimicked the texture and color of the fortress's exterior, clung to the surface like spectral spiders, inching their way towards the energy vents that led directly to the power core. Inside the bastion, unaware of the intruders clinging to its hull, the Kellian command orchestrated its defense with ruthless efficiency. They launched squadrons of heavy fighters, unleashed volleys of plasma artillery, and activated drone swarms that surged towards the distraction force. Every minute the battle raged, the stealth team moved closer to their objective. The infiltration team reached the power core without detection, thanks to the chaos outside and their meticulous stealth. They planted a series of high-yield explosives, timed to cripple the fortress without triggering its catastrophic destruction. The goal was not to annihilate, but to incapacitate, to take the fortress as an intact prize that would yield valuable intelligence and serve as a forward base for further operations. As the explosives detonated, the fortress shuddered, a behemoth wounded grievously. Lights flickered and alarms wailed as sections of the bastion lost power. The Kellian defenders, thrown into disarray, scrambled to respond to the internal crisis. This moment of confusion was the signal for the main assault force. Coalition troops, led by Varn's shock units, boarded the crippled fortress. They fought through corridors and chambers, engaging Kellian troops in intense close-quarters combat. The battle for the Iron Citadel was brutal and bloody, with every metre gained paid for in the currency of courage and resolve. After hours of fierce fighting, the fortress was secured. The fall of the Iron Citadel sent shockwaves throughout the Kellian Empire. It was a message writ large across the stars. No stronghold was beyond reach, no defence impervious. As Admiral Jensen reviewed the reports from the successful operation, she felt a mix of relief and determination. The victory was monumental, but it was also a reminder of the cost of war. Now, with the Bastion as a new base of operations, the coalition prepared to drive deeper into Kellian territory, pushing forward towards the heart of the enemy's domain, one battle at a time. With the fall of the Iron Citadel, the coalition forces found themselves at the threshold of the Abyss, a region of space shrouded in mystery and dread, rumoured to be the Kellian Empire's last bastion of power. It was a place where stars seemed to fade, and darkness swallowed all but the bravest of explorers. Yet it was here that humanity and its allies would make their final stand against the Kellian tyranny. The Abyss was not merely a physical expanse, but a metaphorical abyss of despair and oppression, where the Kellians had reigned unchallenged for eons. It was said that their darkest experiments and cruelest machinations were hidden within its veils, waiting to be unleashed upon any who dared to venture too close. Admiral Jensen, her resolve unyielding despite the daunting odds, convened a council of war aboard the Resolute. In the dim glow of the command deck, surrounded by holographic projections of star maps and enemy installations, she outlined the plan to breach the Abyss and confront the Kellian overlords in their own domain. The plan was audacious, a coordinated assault on multiple fronts, drawing upon the combined strength of the coalition's fleets and ground forces. The objectives were clear: to establish a foothold within the Abyss, to disrupt Kellian supply lines and communications, and ultimately to confront the Kellian High Command in their lair. The first phase of the operation involved a series of diversionary attacks on the outer perimeter of the Abyss. Human and allied forces engaged in hit-and-run tactics, striking at key outposts and supply depots, keeping the Kellians off balance and diverting their attention away from the true target, the heart of the Abyss. Meanwhile, a covert strike team, led by Commander Celine Reyes, a skilled infiltrator with a penchant for risk-taking, penetrated the Abyss's defences. Their mission was twofold: to gather intelligence on Kellian defences and to sabotage key installations from within. It was a perilous undertaking, fraught with danger at every turn, but the success of the operation depended on their ability to sow chaos behind enemy lines. As the battles raged on the outskirts of the Abyss, the coalition's main fleet, led by Admiral Jensen aboard the Resolute, made its approach. The journey into the darkness of the Abyss was fraught with uncertainty, with sensor arrays malfunctioning and navigational beacons flickering out. Yet the coalition ships pressed on, their determination unwavering in the face of the unknown. Finally, as they breached the inner sanctum of the Abyss, the true extent of the Kellian Empire's power was revealed. Massive orbital fortresses, bristling with weapons, loomed like silent sentinels in the void. Swarms of Kellian fighters darted through the darkness, their ominous presence a reminder of the enemy's relentless resolve. As the coalition forces prepared for the final assault, a sense of anticipation hung heavy in the air. The fate of the galaxy now rested on the outcome of this epic confrontation, a battle that would determine whether the light of freedom would prevail over the darkness of tyranny, whether humanity and its allies would emerge victorious from the depths of the Abyss. Entering the Abyss was like stepping into the maw of a primordial beast. The darkness swallowed the stars, and even the bravest souls felt a chill crawl down their spines. Yet the coalition forces pressed forward, their resolve steeled by the knowledge that their cause was just and their determination unyielding. As the fleet advanced deeper into the Abyss, they encountered pockets of resistance, Kellian patrol ships lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce on unsuspecting prey. These skirmishes, though small in scale, served as harbingers of the battles to come, testing the mettle of the coalition forces and sharpening their readiness for the trials ahead. At the heart of the Abyss lay the Citadel, an ancient fortress that served as the seat of Kellian power. Rumoured to be impregnable, it stood as a monument to the hubris of the Kellian overlords, a testament to their belief in their own invincibility. But the coalition forces were undeterred. They had come too far and sacrificed too much to turn back now. Admiral Jensen, aboard the Resolute, convened a council of war to finalize the battle plan. Every detail was scrutinized, every contingency accounted for. The assault on the Citadel would be a multi-pronged attack, with ground forces launching a diversionary strike, while the main fleet engaged the Kellian defenses head-on. As the coalition forces prepared for battle, tensions ran high. Each soldier, each pilot, knew that they were about to face the greatest challenge of their lives. Yet they also knew that they fought not just for themselves, but for the countless lives that had been lost in the struggle against Kellian tyranny. The assault began with a barrage of firepower that lit up the darkness of the abyss like 1,000 suns. Coalition ships unleashed torrents of energy weapons and missile salvos, raining destruction upon the Kellian defenses. Meanwhile, ground forces launched a daring assault on the Citadel's surface, fighting tooth and nail to breach its formidable defenses. The battle that followed was a symphony of chaos and carnage. Coalition fighters engaged in dogfights with Kellian interceptors, weaving through asteroid fields and evading barrages of plasma fire. On the surface of the Citadel, soldiers clashed in brutal close-quarters combat, their weapons flashing in the darkness as they fought for every inch of ground. In the midst of the chaos, Commander Selena Reyes and her covert strike team infiltrated the Citadel, their mission to disable the fortress's shield generators and open the way for the coalition forces. It was a race against time as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the Citadel, evading Kellian patrols and security systems at every turn. Finally, after hours of fierce fighting, the shield generators were disabled, and the way to the heart of the Citadel lay open. The coalition forces surged forward, their determination unbroken despite the heavy losses they had suffered. And as they breached the inner sanctum of the Citadel, they were met not with despair but with hope, for they knew that victory was within their grasp, and that the shadows of the abyss would soon be banished by the light of freedom. Inside the heart of the Kellian Citadel, the coalition forces encountered a scene of both awe-inspiring grandeur and chilling dread. The corridors were lined with towering statues of Kellian overlords, their stern faces carved from obsidian, a testament to the Empire's iron grip on the galaxy. Yet amidst the opulence, there were signs of decay, cracks in the walls, flickering lights, and a palpable sense of foreboding. As the coalition forces advanced deeper into the Citadel, they encountered fierce resistance from Kellian loyalists determined to defend their last bastion to the death. But the coalition soldiers, fueled by the knowledge that they fought for the freedom of the galaxy, pressed on undaunted, their spirits unbroken despite the odds stacked against them. In the heart of the Citadel, Admiral Jensen and her command staff coordinated the assault from the bridge of the Resolute. Every decision was calculated, every move strategic, as they sought to outmaneuver the Kellian defenders and seize control of the Citadel's central command hub. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. Meanwhile, Commander Selena Reyes and her covert strike team continued their mission to disable the Citadel's central power core. Their path was fraught with peril as they navigated through darkened corridors patrolled by elite Kellian guards and automated defense systems. But their determination never wavered, and with each step they took, they drew closer to their objective. Outside the Citadel, the battle raged on, with coalition forces engaging Kellian warships in a desperate struggle for control of the skies. It was a contest of wills and firepower, with each side refusing to yield an inch of ground. But as the coalition's determination began to tip the scales in their favor, the Kellian High Command realized that their grip on power was slipping away. Inside the central command hub, Admiral Jensen and her team fought their way past the last line of Kellian defenders and accessed the Citadel's mainframe. With expert precision, they initiated a series of commands that would cripple the fortress's systems and render it vulnerable to attack. And as the last lines of defense fell, a sense of triumph washed over the coalition forces. With the Citadel's systems compromised, the coalition forces launched a final assault on the fortress, overwhelming the remaining Kellian loyalists and securing victory. The echoes of liberation reverberated throughout the galaxy as news of the Citadel's fall spread like wildfire among the oppressed peoples of the Kellian Empire. As the dust settled and the cheers of victory echoed through the halls of the Citadel, Admiral Jensen knew that the war was far from over, but with the heart of the Kellian Empire now in their hands, humanity and its allies had taken a decisive step towards freedom, and the galaxy would never be the same again. With the fall of the Kellian Citadel, the galaxy stood on the precipice of a new era. Freed from the shackles of tyranny, countless worlds celebrated their newfound liberty, their skies ablaze with fireworks and their streets filled with jubilant crowds. But amidst the revelry, there was a sense of solemnity, for the cost of freedom had been steep, and the scars of war ran deep. In the aftermath of the conflict, Admiral Jensen and the coalition leaders convened a summit aboard the Resolute to chart the course forward. Their task was monumental: to rebuild and reconcile, to heal the wounds of the past and forge a path towards a brighter future for all who called the galaxy home. At the heart of their discussions was the establishment of a new Galactic Council, a council that would represent the interests of all sentient beings, regardless of race or creed. It was a bold vision, one that required cooperation and compromise, but Admiral Jensen knew that it was essential if the galaxy was to truly move beyond the divisions of the past. Meanwhile, on the newly liberated worlds of the former Kellian Empire, the process of rebuilding had already begun. Human engineers and architects worked side by side with their alien counterparts, laying the foundations for a new society built on principles of equality and justice. It was a daunting task, but one that filled the hearts of all who took part with hope for a better tomorrow. As the coalition forces withdrew from the former Kellian territories, they left behind a legacy of liberation, a legacy that would inspire generations to come, and as they returned to their respective homeworlds, they carried with them the knowledge that they had played a part in shaping the destiny of the galaxy. In the years that followed, the scars of war began to fade, replaced by the seeds of renewal and growth. Trade flourished between once warring factions, and cultural exchanges blossomed as beings from across the galaxy came together to celebrate their shared heritage. It was a time of unparalleled prosperity, a golden age born from the ashes of conflict, and as Admiral Jensen looked out upon the galaxy from the bridge of the Resolute, she knew that their struggle had not been in vain. For in overcoming the darkness of tyranny, humanity and its allies had ushered in a new dawn, a dawn of freedom, unity, and hope for all who called the stars their home.